Politically Conscious returns Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as President Trump's administration is under fire after the Venezuelan boat strike sparks new questions about lawful military orders. Health Secretary RFK Jr. fans the flame by amplifying a CDC vaccine autism claim. And while the chaos unfolds, America still shatter Black Friday records, dropping $11.8 billion. If you're tired of the propaganda, listen to us. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates, your mental activist for episode 53 of Politically Conscious. Got my man Emil Bryant Black in this thing with me. We just skipped a week for the holidays. A lot has happened since we did the last Politically Conscious show. It should be 54, but it's 53. That's what happens when you go on holidays. So we do commit our time to the peoples. We got our brother Shelly Winters on this thing with us as well. So we got the whole crew together. Shelly's with us for about 30 minutes just to give a little context for everybody out there. If it's your first time watching the Politically Conscious show, we react to what's happening in politics and show political clips from around the web and give you a reaction from the left and the right. We're going to keep it super quick since Shelly only got 30 minutes. Emil, you come from the left, tell them who you are, and then we'll go to Shelly.
Emil Bryant, I'm a political consultant, I'm an author, and I'm a speaker. My job is to tell the truth, and I advise my clients to do the same. Tell the truth, tell it early, tell it often. Bad news does not get better with time, and the people need to know. They make informed and intelligent decisions when a candidate tells the truth. Tell the truth.
Shelly, from the Shelly Winter Show, you don't really need an introduction. I always tell Emil, I don't know why he thinks candidates tell the truth, because I don't think hardly any of them do. But if you will, tell us who you are, and we're going to start with the clip.
Yeah, I'm Shelly Winter, host of the Shelly Winter Show on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk, every single Monday through Friday, every single night, 7 to 9 p.m. And just a guy that tells the truth, because I'm not running for office.
Hey, if you're tired of the propaganda, listen to us, and let's start out.
Actually, you know what? Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
I give my opinion, and this is just my opinion. I don't know that opinions can be true or false or whatever. I just give my opinion, and so you accept it as is.
Nah, fair enough. All right, let's get started with this clip.
I prefer to think that all my opinions are truth and all 100% correct.
So I'm gonna give you 100% hell no. This clip. How about that?
Venezuela, for those Americans who do not understand why we need to go in, basically for three reasons. You're in Fox Business. Venezuela, for the American oil companies, will be a field day, because it will be more than $1 trillion in economic activity.
Well, they're just saying the quiet part out loud. That was Republican Representative Maria Salazar admitting on national television that the party of no new wars is about to send our children to the slaughterhouse for big oil. As an Iraq war veteran, I feel like we've done this already. And this slip up is obviously not really being covered by right-wing media outlets. As we can see on the ground news bias distribution chart, only 17% of right-leaning media outlets are covering.
So I'll start with you, Shelly, on this one. And again, we get straight, no chaser. Everything that's going on with this Venezuelan stuff, we're hearing all these noise. If we're going to cut straight to the chase, I feel like that guy CFH Unfiltered is what he goes by on IG. Cut straight to the chase on what's happening in Venezuela. I think I've been seeing you say the same thing on your show as well. Your thoughts, Shelly?
Well, I said the same thing. This Venezuela thing, I said the same thing on my show. I've been saying it for a couple days now. And essentially what I shared on my show is I understand what you're doing. Just tell me the truth. Don't try and make it about narco-terrorism and drugs and all of this stuff, because if we really cared about that, we'd swoop into Mexico and kill all the cartel members, because that's where most of the drugs are coming from. And then we go back to Afghanistan and destroy all the poppy fields, because that's where the heroin is coming from. So, I just want you to tell me the truth. Hey, guys, you know, as I said on my show, hey, Shelly, we're going to get this largest oil reserve field and control it with somebody that we like, so you can have lower gas prices. No problem. Go in there. Or I could say, no, I don't agree. I don't want lower gas prices, whatever it is, but tell the truth. Also, there's another layer to this that also has to do with the deep state. I use that term because it's a known term, but don't let it be a term that I use and you automatically reject it because it's kind of a Republican term. But that intelligence community, there are some rumblings. I don't know how true they are, but there is some reporting out there that Maduro was releasing Tren de Agua into the United States and the Biden administration at the Biden administration's urging. Don't know how true that is because it doesn't really make sense to me. Why you would want gang members in America. I know why you want immigrants in America or illegal immigrants, whatever. I know that. I know the reason for that. That's political. But gangbangers, I don't understand. But there is reporting about that. But let me go back to the deep state angle. This is Maduro arguably was elected in a fake election. He stole an election. Well, that's Venezuela's problem to deal with. That's not our problem to deal with. And if our idea is to go into every country where there's flawed or stolen elections by dictators or socialists, then, we're going to be fighting wars all over the place. It's clear Venezuela has oil that we want access to. More importantly than Venezuela, right next door is Guyana, a very small, weak country that Venezuela is trying to take their oil fields. And so you have in Venezuela and Guyana, which sits right next to it, you have oil that we don't have to go to Saudi Arabia for anything. And so that's what this is all about. And I think everybody knows it. And I just feel like, no one's saying it in the media. People are talking about it, but the media is largely silent on that angle. The media that hates Trump is going after him for being a warmonger or whatever attacks they're going to wage. But they certainly are not talking about the oil angle. And the reason why they're not is because they can't, because they didn't do it any other time that it happened. Well, they talked about it with Bush. But
Let me jump a mill in here. Let's jump a mill in there. Go ahead, Emil.
All right, apologize.
Yeah, no problem. You're fine.
Yeah. So, Shelly, 100%, I agree with brother. It's all about the oil. This is not a fancy sort of diversionary tactic. We're going after Venezuela's oil. There's one company. Chevron is the only American company that has a license. It actually has a waiver from the Trump administration. It has had a waiver from the Biden administration for years. It's had this waiver to operate in Venezuela, but they also face sanctions for their operations. So they're not making nearly as much money. They also, so if the Venezuela oil market were to open up, Venezuela has the most oil reserve on the planet, period, dot. Venezuela is also a founding member of OPEC. It is the founding member of OPEC, to be honest. So we have a country that has massive oil reserves. We're picking a fight with a known quantity in Maduro, who is duly elected by the people of Venezuela. Do we agree? No, we've tried to undermine him. You can go look over the years. The CIA, in many different ways, has tried to undermine the Maduro administration and Maduro himself. So there is a long-standing history between Hugo Chavez and Maduro of America being very antagonistic toward Venezuela. On top of all of that, as Shelley mentioned, Guyana, which is right next door, has a giant oil reserve, about 11 billion barrels. Plus, there is a contested area between Venezuela and Guyana that could be either or. So they're always on the verge of a food fight, sometimes even a fist fight over that contested area. So we have to find out. We want to hear from the administration, like Shelley said, straight no chaser. Do you want the oil? Go get it.
So here's a quick challenge to y'all. I won't even let y'all respond. I'm just going to say it because we're going to keep on this because the boat strike is kind of what sparked this, right? So we're going to go into that clip here immediately. But my one challenge is I don't know that it's politics to say it straightforward. And I'm not defending. I'm just saying, is that even politics in a sense to say it straightforward? When you look at history of how any country has went into any country, they've pretty much told their people some other thought while there's an underlying reason. I think that is in itself politics in itself, if you will. I'm just throwing that back at you, not disagreeing, just throwing it out there. But let's get into what started this even conversation.
One thing I would note is every lawmaker you played started their thought by saying, if this is true. And the fact of the matter is there is a lot in dispute tonight. We don't know the answers to everything. And Batya raised an important point that there is a difference between disabling a boat and destroying it. If it was only disabled under the laws of war, actually, they would have potentially been able to make that a mission, a military target. But I think a couple important points to make here more generally is, it's interesting to hear the media talking about this breathlessly for hours and hours when, Biden or Obama drone striked. The only thing that needed to happen was John Kirby would go on TV and say, oh, we made a mistake. We're learning from it. And nobody batted an eye. And yet now this has become the biggest. This has become the biggest story, though.
It's actually not true that no one batted an eye at Obama's highly controversial drone strikes. That's the first thing.
No, and in fact, in the al-Awlaki strike, which was probably one of his most controversial, the legal opinion supporting that strike was fully disclosed at some point. And I think that's what needs to happen here. We need to see the legal opinions. But
I think the bigger story, though, is the average Trump voter looks at this and they think, why is the media breathlessly covering narco-terrorists and drug traffickers when the average American looks at this and thinks, oh, Donald Trump is actually
what I would say to the average
border.
Trump voter.
So let me get to this comment real quick, and then I'll jump you in, Emil. Kenny77 says, so people are admitting this is about oil and not drugs. What I'll say to Kenny is, and again, if you're tired of the propaganda, listen to us. We're admitting that it's about oil, as we've highlighted by the previous clip. The media is not covering it for that reason. That's why you're here. We're going to give it to you straight, no chaser. But Emil, I'll let you jump in on that clip because based on the propaganda of it being about narco-terrorism and that thing, again, that's literally what we've been told about this boat strike. It looks like the Democrats again are in a sense defending someone that's undefensible. I'm just saying this is kind of how it appears on surface. Your thoughts about that CNN clip?
See, this is the stupid part of politics that I get so frustrated with. And let me just say it very, very clearly for everybody who's listening. The Secretary of Defense said, kill everybody. The Admiral took that literally and made sure everybody was dead. Now we're having an argument over the Democrats are defending the people on the boat. No, we're having an argument over should defenseless people be destroyed, killed, murdered against all of the law of armed conflict and the Geneva Conventions. And the answer to that is an unequivocal no. So this context of politics being the Democrats are defending the criminals is stupid, in my opinion. You should be asking, did the Secretary of Defense order defenseless people get killed? And the answer is yes, he did. And now we have another question. Is that legal? And the answer is no, it is not. And if we stay in that space, we can have a clear and clean debate about what we should do. What you're seeing is this get muddied. Oh, the Secretary of Defense said it was the Admiral who ordered the second strike. That is foolishness because the Secretary of Defense, that's where the buck stops. He needs to own his role in this tragedy and make sure that it never happens again.
Let me ask a quick question. I'm going to move it to Shelley. Quick question, Emil. On that CNN cut, they were highlighting that, in a sense, the investigation still needs to be had as to exactly what happened. So are you saying, because I don't know exactly when that clip was played, I just found it. So are you saying they now know that it was ordered the way you're saying it? Because you're saying bottom line, the buck stops here. So has that been clarified, or is that your take? I just need to understand.
It's my take, but okay. I'm going back to the original reporting. I'm not doing all the stuff that's happening last week. Go back to the original reporting because that was raw and it was without as much spin as you're seeing in the last 3 days.
All right, Shelley, your thoughts on that clip?
No, here's my problem. I agree, somewhat with Emil. I agree with that. The real question is, is it okay for a president through declaration declare someone a narco-terrorist, a terrorist of any sort, and then kill them, right? Is that legal, right? I'm not a lawyer, but, is it legal? For instance, and this is what I say to people in MAGA, if a Democrat wins the presidency in 28 and the Democrats have the House and the Senate. And that Democrat president says MAGA are domestic terrorists, right? They just say MAGA's domestic terrorists, right? They're whatever reasoning they use, right? At what point is law enforcement allowed to arrest MAGA or to jail MAGA or to shoot MAGA without any kind of anything, without any kind of due process? Now, I don't know the answer to that, but that's the question that I asked. This is more of the libertarian Shelley that you're seeing now. You know, if people ask me all the time, you know, are you conservative, whatever, I'll tell you exactly who I am. 65% of me is conservative, maybe 70, right? 20% of me is libertarian. That last 10% is straight anarchy. I want to burn it down. That 10% that's left is a guy that wants to burn the whole thing up, blow the whole thing up, and start all over. So the libertarian part of me says, I don't like this, because it's too arbitrary. You know, it's too, I'm taking the word of my government who I know lies to me. I don't care who's the head of the government. I don't care who's in power. You know, so there's a lot of that going on. To this clip that you played, here's what I have to say, and I said it on my show, and I hate to keep saying that, but I just...
I don't mind saying that. We want to highlight your show. Like, that's part of why you do this, brother. You're on this show.
Right. But yet, I want to say this. I said it on my show that I don't like whataboutisms, no matter who does it, right? Because the problem with the Post reporter, when she said no one said anything when Obama droned people, well, that's not the point. That's the media's job. They can do that. But as an individual, what you have to do, forget the media, because you're an individual, you're not a sheep. You need to say, how did I feel about it when Obama did it? Then I need to feel that same way when Trump does it. And that's the consistency. That's called intellectual honesty with yourself. Right. And that's most important. So if I didn't like it, I hated it when Obama did it. When Obama did it, I went crazy against him, because I was like, this is Bush 2.0 to foreign policy. I hated it. And so now I hate it as well here. But conservatives keep saying, well, what about Obama? And I'm like, well, what was your reaction when Obama did it? If you hated it then, you need to hate it now. Like, that's not an argument to wage when you do what about whoever. So that's what that's what I say. As for what so let me end with this. I apologize.
No problem. You're good.
The admiral that's testifying, who came in behind the brother that retired because he didn't want to do this, Halsey. The Admiral Bradley now is set to testify. I suspect that his testimony is going to be built around protecting himself against Trump, because whatever he did or did not do, whether it's legal or not, but assume that it could be seen as illegal, he's going to need Trump's pardon before he gets out of there. And he's going to say all the right things under oath, whatever the case may be. I believe that the onus is not about it being illegal or legal. I believe all of this is designed to get the head of Pete Hegseth. And I'll be honest with you, Pete Hegseth, to me, and I said this when the nominations were made, was the weakest. I said this on here too.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up, but I remember you saying it.
Right, was my least favorite of a couple of them. And so if it's to get Pete Hegseth's head, and that's where we're headed towards, I'm fine with it. I'm completely okay with that.
Let me jump into this clip, because this conversation did get into the media highlighting the lawfulness and the unlawfulness, right? So I got a clip that speaks directly to that. So I want to play that real quick and get y'all thoughts.
Respectfully, Senator, what the hell are you doing? Looking into the camera and telling military men and women to ignore the commander-in-chief. How dare you? How dare you do that? That's right, I'm calling out. I never served in the military. That's true. I have family members who did. Some of my best friends have. Marines, Air Force, Navy, Army. I haven't heard one of them, not one of them, say that was okay. How dare you do that? Is it treason? No.
That man is a living example of being loud and wrong. Just because you're screaming into a mic don't make it right. Calling for the troops to disobey illegal orders is not controversial, and it's actually pretty popular. Stephen A. Smith, just like Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump, does not understand the relationship the military has with the law, especially when it comes to understanding the Constitution. As a matter of fact, I speak. Take it away.
PSA, PSA, PSA. This is to my active duty service members and to my active duty service members only, especially those pushing this sentiment. I was just following orders will never be an acceptable defense in a court of law, more specifically, a court-martial. There are individuals that are peddling this sentiment that these Marines, these National Guardsmen, that are active duty service members have to follow unlawful orders. No, we do not. If you look at the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Articles 77 through 134 are all of the punitive articles. More specifically, this one would kind of similarly go to 92, and 90, right? Go look at the Uniform Code of Military Justice. When you raise your right hand, you give that oath of enlistment. I state your name. Do solemnly swear and or to affirm to serve and protect the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, not some enemies, all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, to obey the orders of the President and the officers appointed over me, according to the regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. You do not have to follow unlawful orders. I don't know who needed to hear that. This is not a political video. This is not against any specific individual. This is just for educational purposes only. Good day.
Shelly, I'll let you respond to it because it brought
there's nothing. There's nothing. Mark Kelly, the video is not going to get Mark Kelly in trouble. His statements, those are empty threats from Hegseth and those guys trying to shut down that. Let's go through the timeline. September 2nd was the droning in question. You had right around that same time the brother Halsey, the admiral, retire, stating that he was retiring. But the backstory, everyone, the reporting says, is because he felt these were unlawful orders, that we could not legally just bomb people in the Caribbean Sea. He was over U.S. Southcom, I think. And so that's what was going on. Then you have a new head of it, and Bradley, I presume, and that's who's carrying out the orders. There's an argument. It was an argument during the Bush administration. It was an argument, meaning a legal argument during the Obama administration. Lawyers come up with these arguments. We will see what the courts say as to the legality of this, and the legality of designating someone a terrorist and then killing them. We'll see what happens. But I think that we get lost in this by continuing to have these back and forths, because it's all politics. Like you say, no propaganda here. It's all politics. Yes, as the brother laid out, you can ignore an illegal order. However, what's not said is what's an unlawful order. What is that? What does that look like in a time of quote unquote war? Many men ignore what they deem to feel are lawful orders, and they're in the brig, and then they're court-martialed. And so, we have to see how this plays out. But at the end of the day, I think we lose sight of the main thing as Americans. If you cheered George Bush going into Iraq for oil, and you cheered for that, then you should cheer this. If you are against that, then you should be against this. That's it. That's period.
That's a good line. Let me swing it over to Neil real quick.
Yeah, you should. That's it. And let me end it with this. If you're against George Bush for doing it simply because he was a Republican, then all bets are off. But if the principle to you is going into another country to steal their resources, through violence.
Go ahead, Emil. Let me jump Emil in there. Go ahead, Emil.
Yeah, so first of all, the brother was right. The oath of enlistment and the oath that I took as a commissioned officer in the United States Air Force, they're very clear about support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But there's more to it when we talk about lawful orders. So there's a 3-part test that we should always know.
Can we do a quick one though? Because I got
okay.
for 6 minutes.
The law of armed conflict is taught to every military member, and we are taught to not follow illegal, immoral, or unethical orders. Those are the 3 tests that we always need to test any order. And if we feel morally that an order violates that, then we have to follow our conscience.
No, good stuff. All right, I want to. We got one comment as well. Debbie, I think Tyam, she says all of U.S. military action in the region is illegal. When this is all done and over, Trump and his administration and some military service men and women will be brought to answer for their unlawful acts, including blowing up people in boats. So that was one of our watchers' comments. Let me get to this clip before we get Shelly out of here. I'll let you lead. Well, I'm gonna let Shelly go and lead off again so he can get out of here for this next clip, because I definitely wanted to get at least one of these in with him. And so
the CDC's new language regarding vaccines and autism. Joining us is medical correspondent Dr. Darian Sutton. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Good morning.
So let's start with Health and Human Services Director Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He says he asked the CDC to update its language on vaccines and autism. So tell us, what exactly changed?
Well, a significant change to the CDC website regarding vaccine safety. So essentially on the website, there's a statement that says the claim, quote, vaccines do not cause autism, end quote, is not an evidence-based claim because studies have not ruled out the possibility that infant vaccines cause autism. Now, Janae, aside from the fact that there is a substantial amount of evidence that shows that there is no link between vaccines and autism, you know, this statement is significant from the CDC, Premier Health Institute, leading a lot of public opinion, and it's a statement that is not based in evidence. There's no new study that shows any association between vaccines and autism. And Janae, in practice, over 5 million participants, that's how large these studies are, show continuously over 40 different states that there is no association between vaccines and autism, and it's not consistent with our current reality. We're seeing a decrease in vaccination rates and a rise in the diagnosis of autism. Last year, half the states in the United States saw a decline in vaccination rates compared to the year prior.
Do you think it'd be fair to characterize that statement from many medical professionals as alarming?
It is alarming and it's concerning because it's shifting moms and dads who are trying to make this difficult decision and adding unnecessary fear. And it's so important for parents to understand that when you're looking at these options, the risk of an infection and complications far exceed the risk of vaccines that we use to prevent them. And your risk of exposure to these diseases, Janae, is almost certain. For example, this year we saw 45 outbreaks of measles at least. That's triple the number we saw last year. We're seeing rising rates in the country. 90% over 90% are unvaccinated, and these come with complications. Before vaccines were available, close to 50,000 people were hospitalized in this country secondary to measles.
Okay, so for you, you're saying that's the bottom line that parents need to know right now when it comes to that. Okay, let's all.
All right, Shirley. If they're lining Hegseth up to go, you know, I would like to line up for RFK to be out, head chopped off as well, because it is nothing consistent. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. You're muted. You can't mute. You're muted. I know you got to go. So the last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to let you go, is it don't even line up. Vaccine rates are going down. They're not connected. Autism is going up. This dude is making up stuff and putting it on the website. There's no new study that has a link. Why the hell is he doing that? You're still muted. You're still muted.
I'll tell you. Let me tell you, my vaccine point of view is similar to my climate change point of view. My climate change point of view is this. I don't know if we're destroying the planet, but I know billions of people, chemicals, exhaust, all of that stuff can be impacting it. Will it go away? Will we destroy the planet in 5 years, 50 years, 5,000 years? I don't know. But I know the influx of our presence with chemicals and stuff in the air, pollution, all of that stuff, chopping down trees for growth, all of that stuff can't be good. That's what I'm saying. That's my position on climate change. My position on vaccines is similar. You have a 1 to 2 year old baby, and you're injecting them with over 70 different ingredients, all based on financial gain. I just simply say to you, forget the studies. Common sense tells me if I inject a baby with all of those different things, that's going to have a reaction into some babies, period. If you inject HPV, which is a sexually driven virus, in a 1-year-old, and polio and chicken pox and COVID-19 and all of these different things into a 1 or 2-year-old, yeah, I think at a certain point, common sense says you're going to impact the health of that child. Some will go right ahead and nothing will happen. I do believe that that's true. I don't know which ones. I'm not saying it's the methamphetamine or whatever, I'm not saying any of that. I'm just simply saying that at a certain point, the human body has been around for over 1 million years, developing, growing, and moving forward. And all of a sudden now we're just injecting babies with stuff to keep them from getting stuff. And I'm like, the human body has a natural way of fighting these things,
right? And
so
that's
just my position.
Yeah,
I'm not anti-vaccine.
I'll just say this: and when we naturally did it, we died at 45.
No, we died at 40. No.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Go look at life expectancy 100 years ago.
So what was the life expectancy when I had one vaccine, and that was the polio vaccine. I still have the mark here. And I'm well into my age thing.
That's anecdotal evidence, Shelley. We have data. We have population level data that suggests something different.
I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm simply telling you that it stands to reason if you inject 1 to 2-year-old babies with a whole bunch of chemicals and a whole bunch of viruses, it's going to have an adverse effect. It's going to have an adverse effect.
It's not common sense. That's the problem. It's science.
Science is
I gotta go.
It's clear on vaccines. They're the most studied medical stuff.
We need to get the guy out of there.
Let me end y'all like this. You know what the science once said? The earth was flat and revolved around the sun. So
no, it didn't.
Science.
The Greeks said
science.
The people in power said that.
It was science.
Said the opposite.
But it was
science did not say that.
The people in power.
5,000 years ago, the Egyptians both knew the same thing.
Hold on. The people in power did the studies and called it science. They didn't call it religion. They called it science. So all I'm trying to say to y'all, I'm not here to argue vaccines or no. I'm simply here to tell you at the end of the day, if you inject a baby at 1 to 2 years old with a whole bunch of chemicals, it's going to have an adverse effect, period. We take medicine right now that's backed by science, and they tell you the rundown of side effects. But it's backed by science, and it saves lives, but it tells you, it may cause suicidal thoughts. It may cause loss of weight. It may cause loss of appetite. But you know what? It's going to cure you of this ailment because it's backed by the science. I'm out, y'all. Deuces.
Hey, this is what he can't hear it. He ain't going to hear it. But all medicine is offered to the market based on a risk versus reward. And that's something that people misunderstand. There's no medicine that's offered on the market without a risk reward consideration. Okay? Because to the point, the reason they legally have to list all of the side effects, just for anybody out there watching that may not understand this, the reason they have to list all the side effects is because for the most part, to your point, if you give anything to whether it's 100 people or especially if you give it to 1 million people, there are individuals who may have adverse effects or reactions. The reality, the risk reward is this: if you get the virus out of that, let's use the easy numbers. Out of 1,000 people, if you get the virus, and there's a possibility that 100 of 10 of them will die out of 1,000, and that's getting the virus. Or I can give you this vaccine and we cut that down to 1 that may die and the adverse effects from the actual vaccine. Which one are you going to risk? Getting the virus that may kill 10 people out of 1,000, or risk taking the vaccine that may kill 1 person out of 1,000? And the reason I'm giving those simple numbers is because all medicine is offered on the market at a risk reward. That has to be the consideration. It's why if you or me or Emil are on a deathbed, there are medicines that they would never give us, that you could never get across the counter, and that the hospital would never give us. But if it's about to save our life, they will inject us with their most potent medicine, because the risk reward in that situation is it may save your life in this moment, but under no other circumstances would we give you this medicine, because the risk reward is too risky. If I'm healthy or not, my life is not on the line. So it's only given when the risk reward makes sense. That's why some medicines are over the counter, some you have to get a prescription for. No different with a vaccine. The beauty of vaccines is they have to be the safest of all medicines. So vaccines have the lowest adverse effect profile compared to any other medicines because they give them to babies.
Because they give them to everybody. It's a
but specifically babies. But specifically babies is why it's so low. Specifically to babies. Like right now, you or I don't have children, but Emil, you have children. If you gave your child a baby Tylenol when they're not sick, you would be risk going to DSS because that is abuse.
Right.
Doc, we're talking about baby Tylenol. They wouldn't even make us well if we had a cough. It ain't gonna do nothing for us because it's not strong enough for us. But baby Tylenol, if you gave it to some people used to give it to their child just to put them to sleep. If DSS found that out, they would call that abuse. The reason I use the baby Tylenol example, risk reward, is vaccines have to be safer than baby Tylenol because it's the only medicines that's given when you're completely healthy. You cannot give baby Tylenol when your child is when completely healthy with no sickness. And even you look at the rules of baby Tylenol, they only tell you by the third day, don't give it anymore because they're babies. Like that's Tylenol, over the counter. That's the rules on baby Tylenol. Vaccines are given; they're healthier than baby Tylenol. All right, I got on my rant. Go ahead, Emil.
No, this is the problem with people who think that common sense is common. And it makes sense all the time. It doesn't, because these things are studied well. Vaccine people say, "Oh, the pharmaceutical companies make all this money off of vaccines." Vaccines are the lowest margin product that pharmaceuticals make. Period. They do it as a service to the government and to the people. No, they're not magnanimous. But they also know that dead people don't sell any pharmaceuticals either. So you have to have this balance. There is a market force for vaccines being safe. There is a market force for healthy behaviors coming out of places like the pharmaceutical and medical industries. These are not uncontroversial things. What's controversial is what RFK put on the CDC website when he said that there's no definitive, I can't remember exactly how he put it. I had to look it up because it was crazy. It says, wait, I got to find it because it says the claim that vaccines do not cause autism is not an evidence-based claim because studies have not ruled out the possibility that infant vaccines cause autism. What? There's so many negatives and double negatives in that sentence, it's hard to follow. So this is one of the problems with RFK Jr. He's using fringe science to put on a mainstream, very well-respected website by the government that autism and vaccines may or may not. The study he cited most often has been debunked so many times by so many different authors, it no longer is canon to debunk it. It's just too easy to poke holes in that false study that he cites as proof. No, we're not having that conference.
And let me simplify the statement because you said the negatives. So to simplify the statement, the way he writes it is simply this. It's written in a way that it asks science to prove a negative. If you understand scientific methodology, science will never attempt to prove a negative because science knows it cannot test all possibilities. So therefore, science, the methodology it basically, again, is counterintuitive. So if what I'm saying makes sense, you can never ask science to prove a negative. I got Brother Dunner Atchison says, not really an accurate statement regarding medicines and vaccines. Definitely would love if you would explain more what you feel is inaccurate. Again, all I just really highlighted with medicine and vaccine is that vaccines carry a lower risk adverse profile than the majority of medicines that typically have a longer adverse risk profile. I think that is accurate in reference to that. So if you're pointing out something else that is not accurate, I'm open to being corrected. Let's see, we got a couple more comments. Kenny says, thank you, people. We have fearful and distrustful people who think they are smarter than your average doctor and scientist. And Kenny also says RFK is a nut, and what happens when patients are running the asylum. Again, heads off. He's horrible. Again, the worst HSF in history, in my opinion. But
Absolutely. And the problem is that you have what seems to be a very nefarious undercurrent of activity within HHS that looks like it's undermining a very well-built and robust public health system that might not work very well if there is another outbreak of something like COVID-19 or something far worse, right? The H1N1 bird flu that was out a few years ago. That people don't understand about public health, but if you read and study public health, you understand that we are much safer than we give ourselves credit because we're preventing a lot of things from ever showing up on our radar at all. The public health system works best when you know nothing is happening. And so you think they're not doing anything, but in fact, they're hard at work keeping things from affecting us as a population.
No, good stuff. Missing our brother Shelley on this. I wanted to highlight this note right here, something that I'm pretty sure he would have something to
American
talk about,
consumers spent a record $11.8 billion online during Black Friday, marking a 9.1% increase from last year as artificial intelligence-powered shopping tools helped drive unprecedented digital traffic, according to data from Adobe Analytics released Saturday. The surge came despite troubling economic headwinds, with unemployment nearing a 4-year high and consumer confidence sinking to a 7-month low in November. Between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Friday, online shoppers spent $12.5 million every minute. AI-driven traffic.
Hey, we out here spending money, man. I remember Shelley on his show was highlighting that consumer confidence was really up as Trump was just about to take office. I mean, I literally listened to him on the show in December, highlight how people were, I'm talking about December of last year. Let me get the context correct. December of last year on his show saying, hey, people are spending money and the money's going up. And I tried to call into his show, but I didn't get to get in that time, right? So I was calling on the show to say, Shelley, the consumer spending in December has been going up the last 2 years. So don't just highlight this year as if Trump coming into office is bringing on the confidence when the numbers were great 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And now I am surprised, and I wonder what he would have to say to this moment right now, because there's consumer confidence, as that cut said, is down now, and unemployment has unfortunately creeped up. It was going to have to creep up eventually because we were at all-time lows, under Obama, under Trump, under Biden. We kept reaching all-time lows. But this creep up is very different, but people are still spending money. Your thoughts, Emil?
So there's a couple of things happening. First, artificial intelligence is just running rampant on Black Friday. So we have the use of AI agents that help shoppers find the best deals out here. The deals were better than last year, but they weren't significantly so. The average retail discount was about 21, 22%. This year was around 26, 27, some up to 28%. But the real key here is that people spent more but got less stuff. I don't know if everybody was aware that, yes, we spent more than last year. To your point about the trend had been kind of going down, but we spent more on fewer items. So the cost per item actually went up. And that's the part that I think it was probably going to be the key determining factor in how people see Black Friday.
Okay.
Inflation tore up our ability to procure more stuff. So the dollar went less far in terms of what you actually got back for it. So we spent more money and got less stuff.
I see. So the price itself is how you get to 11.8 billion because of the price itself. Right. That doesn't necessarily mean we bought more stuff. Okay, that's what the proper like context.
And this is where you can start to see some of this is attributable to the tariff, some of this is attributable to regular inflation, and some of it is attributable to people being much more selective about what they purchase. So they're buying more bigger ticket items. And if you look, the online versus physical shopper experience is vastly different than in past years because of AI and AI agents and a lot of the fact that we've totally normalized online shopping as a Black Friday event. So people are less likely to go physical.
Right. Yeah. So you're going to probably see a drop physical, whereas again, continue increasing online. Again,
correct.
And AI definitely is, in a sense, artificially inflating these numbers probably to a degree as well.
100%.
Yeah. So we got Kenny jumping in on a couple more thoughts. He says, Doctor, and this is back to the last thought. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm a big fan of Dr. DeGrasse Tyson. Says this: we don't have scientists in politics. We have lawyers. We need scientists over climate, medicine, environment. We have uneducated arguing over what they don't know. I would agree 1,000% with that. In reference to what we just talked about, Kenny also says late-term capitalism, when the objective goal is higher profits for the people at the top at the expense of everyone else. So he's offering that, that they're still, in a sense, protecting, perfecting, I should say, perfecting and profit margins. That's what I think I hear he's saying in this comment. At least that's how I read it.
Well, no, you've got several $1 trillion companies out here in the world now. Apple, Meta, Walmart's on the verge of becoming $1 trillion. Microsoft. These companies are absolutely figuring out how to manipulate the system for their benefit, and some of us are getting some benefit. But as a rule, society isn't progressing like it did in the 20s and 30s when companies were prospering ridiculously, because a lot of the profit concentration, a lot of the effect was in the United States. Now these companies are worldwide, so their fortunes are not directly linked to the nation like they once were. Say, when you looked at the steel industry or the oil industry or the banking industry, right, that distribution of wealth coming from all over the world changes the dynamic between how we see ourselves and how we see those people at the top of the wealth chain.
Yeah, and this is kind of further. I ended up seeing a video talking about exactly what you're talking about, and to just kind of add on to what you're saying, not in addition to them, in a sense, being able to employ worldwide versus, like you said, the booms in the past, you were employing Americans, so it trickled down inherently from that, but also because a lot of the wealth now can be built in markets almost outside of the industry itself, so the rich are getting richer, less dependent on making sure you and I are the laborers for them. They don't need us as much to obtain their riches. So it also widens the gap in a artificial but real way for us as citizens.
That's right. In fact, our competition, we've said this in other contexts, but it's really true that our competition as American workers are people in India, China, Vietnam, Cambodia, Ghana. Those workers make a lot less money, and the cost of transportation is so low that it makes sense for a business owner to at least consider, if not export, as much of their operation as possible to these low labor cost nations. What that means for us here in America is we either have to skill up or we have to start demanding that the people who are making all this money invest in our communities. We haven't done either very well, and part of that is because we haven't demanded of our government that it respond to the crisis of employment that we're facing today.
It reminds me, it was a cut I didn't get to play maybe a few weeks ago, but it reminds me, you might recall this, when President Trump, the MAGA was still real upset about the H-1B visas, for the people, immigrants that they want to come to the country, especially when it comes to tech or whatever. And Trump literally told the reporter, yeah, we're not smart. We need them. Like, I don't know if you remember that video, that conversation he had with a reporter probably about 3 to 4 weeks ago now. But he literally, they were like, he said, like, they were ragging him about, hey, your own constituents are upset about the fact that you're so supportive of particular immigrants coming to the country for these reasons. And Trump was like, yeah, we're not smart enough to do it. So yeah, I'm going to bring them in. Like, he just said it point blank, kind of to your point. All right, let's get to this next cut. We got 10 more minutes before we get out of here. I definitely wish I had Shelley for this one.
We're the Democrats. We care about the issues of everyday people. Gas prices, paying your Jamaican nanny, trips to Israel.
Never forget, slavery lasted over 200 years. Because progress takes time.
You know how many strongly worded letters I could write with this bad boy?
We're the Democrats. We know what our constituents want. Liz Cheney's endorsement.
Remember Obama, guys? I mean, remember 2008?
We're going to stand up for gay people, for black rock, Blackwater mercenaries, Blackstone, black sites, black ops.
We're the Democrats.
If Mamala had the nuclear codes, we'd be at brunch right now.
Believe women. Like, believe billionaire women, at least.
We can't do anything except condemn socialism.
We're the Democrats.
They're not war crimes when we're in power. They're... All right, you guys hate Donald Trump, right? Like, what are we doing here?
I mean, yeah, we take money from AIPAC. I mean, we take your money. We take anybody's money. I mean, your money, Epstein's money. I mean, we just really need that bag.
We protect trans people. We'll protect sports from trans people. What the is gonna make y'all for us? You're so needy!
We're the Democrats.
What do we stand for?
Came across the spoof. I wanted to bring it to the show. I think it was a pretty funny and cool spoof. So credit to them. I wish I knew exactly who put it together. I know some of those influencers just because I follow some of them. But obviously they've gotten together and put together that spoof. But I bring it out because you were pretty upset about the government shutdown and when the Democrats, in a sense, chose to shut it down versus cutting it off prior to the big beautiful bill being signed. And so when I saw that spoof, it was kind of like, we asked for a couple of shows ago, did the Democrats play us? And so I'm just curious, and when you see a spoof like that, Emil, how do you defend that side? Because you're on the left for us on this show.
So I don't defend it. I can't stand these people, and I make no equivocation about it. The reason why I can't stand them is because they do pander. They do pander too much to the people who are at the fringes of the conversations, and they don't fall on their sword when it could really make a difference. I told you in a couple of shows ago, I said they're not playing chess very well at all. In fact, I don't think the Democrats play chess or checkers well. I think the Republicans play checkers very, very well. And to everyone's detriment, the Democrats are still scratching their heads trying to figure out how to fall on a sword that doesn't matter anymore. That parody was perfect because it was all about the triangulation of different things. I'll do whatever makes you feel good to vote for me. Stand on principle. Follow your platform. I've read your platforms, by the way. Stand on your platform because there's some good stuff in there, but you don't because you are influenced by the dollar. And that's what they're talking about. Pandering, influenced by dollars, and making changes because it feels good in the moment rather than following a platform that gives people a sense that you have a North Star and you're going to follow it and you're going to show people the goodness that North Star can bring them. There's good in that platform, but you got to follow it and be disciplined, and they're not doing that.
Okay, good stuff. All right, Brother Donna Atchison came back with a comment when I asked him, give me some clarity on, where he thought I was wrong at. And so he says, if a company becomes, this is back to the vaccine conversation if you're just tuning in, says if a company becomes known for reliable, safe vaccines, they build brand loyalty. That trust becomes extremely valuable when they later sell cancer drugs, autoimmune, biological, diabetes, and weight loss drugs, psychiatric medication, antiviral, monoclonal therapies. These categories often deliver 40 to 80% margin, sometimes for higher than vaccines. So I think that's consistent to what we said, and I wouldn't disagree with anything he just put there. So I don't know. Did you catch anything right now? I think that's consistent to what we said, that you're going to make the bigger margins on the other drugs. Now, what I do hear him highlighting, which I think is a very salient point, if I'm reading this correctly, tell me if I'm wrong, Emil, I think he's highlighting that the vaccine is kind of used to get kind of maybe all kind of set things up for them to go and get the other profits in these other areas. So I just think that all we highlighted was that they make more money off the other drugs. So I think we're saying the same thing. I think he just says they're using the vaccine to kind of get in there with the government to not be as scrutinized. It's kind of what I think I'm reading. Am I reading his comments right?
I would love to break bread with this brother and have a beer because I think the conversation would definitely be off the chain. Okay. The way I read and interpreted is slightly different from you, but I see where he's going. I don't think any of us, unless we're deep into the weeds, knows what brand vaccine we're getting. We don't know who makes what vaccine for our children or for ourselves. I follow like specific ones like COVID-19. I only take Pfizer because I like Pfizer's reputation and I've read their studies. So I'm only going to take the Pfizer vaccines. But in terms of overarching brand loyalty, I don't know if that's 100% true. What you said, though, I think is very much a good point. And that is that the overall reputation for safety, the overall reputation for ethics.
I think that's what he's leaning into. I think he's saying, like, even in the relationship with the approvals from the government. I don't even know. I don't think I'm reading it as brand loyalty to you or I as the consumer, because at the end of the day, you just get on the schedule and whatever the doctor at that hospital has or gives. Sure. Whatever. So I think he's saying kind of what you're saying.
Okay, so if that's the case, then going through, looking at it through the FDA, I would say it this way. The FDA and the pharmaceutical industry writ large are way too cozy for my taste. And Absolutely. This is a reason why. What he's talking about is one of the reasons why. Yeah. I don't think that the FDA is as clearly independent as it should be doing its drug approvals. And that's because of what he's talking about. So that's why I'm saying I would love to break bread with this brother, because I know we would really have a good conversation.
Yeah. He's actually, if I remember, I think he's actually in medical school as we speak. I don't think he's finished yet.
Right on.
Just to highlight that. And the last thing he says, so they are making money at a lower rate going in, but the returns are much higher in the end, which I think that's what we pulled out of that. So yeah, fair enough. And again, I'm just saying, if you distinguish which medicines they're making the most money on, vaccine has a little distinction that it's not one of the higher margin ones, but he's saying it's used as a setup to get to the higher margin. That's right. And I can't help y'all know more than I understand about that. So thank you for that.
It definitely helps the regulators make some decisions that are not always science-based.
Okay. Now, thank you for that clarity, Donald. Absolutely. Thank you for that. All right, cool. We're going to go into our extra innings here a little early, which we usually do at the end, but without two people, we get there a little quicker. So this is our last cut for today. And this is what we call extra innings, is where we get into some of the race and culture stuff. And again, we call ourselves politically conscious. We want to raise your consciousness and awareness when it comes to politics itself. But this is the United States of America, and rarely does politics not include us, if you will. And so this comes from one of the influencers I follow, Mr. Krim, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on this.
They don't want you to be aware of the atrocities of the past so that they can continue to implement them today. This is total war, right? Irregular warfare. Now, where we stand in this moment, the same thing is happening, because you got to keep in mind, why is there an effort to pad the pockets of billionaires and make a trillionaire? And then why at the same time is there effort to starve people? And why is there effort to give us longer mortgages? And why is there effort to starve the American people and have less money in our pockets, while at the same time, simultaneously, of course, increasing healthcare premiums? And at the same time, let's not forget this, at the same time, who else are they focusing on? This is total war, right? Irregular warfare. We're also censoring what kids learn. Let's keep all of that in mind, right? Starving adults, making sure adults don't have access to SNAP, which subsequently is starving children and the elderly. About 60% of all SNAP recipients, right? Children, elderly. You're doing that. Healthcare premiums up. Billionaires getting richer. The price of everything going up. And at the same time, you're saying, wait, I want to make sure that your children aren't really learning the truth about history. Why is that something that you're so concerned about? At the same time, you're concerned about making all of this money, helping expand the American empire abroad, using our tax money to fund genocide, bombing Latino folks in South America for no reason at all. You're doing all of that, and then you're also saying, hey, let's make sure kids don't learn the truth about slavery. Let's make sure they don't learn the truth about labor uprisings. Let's sanitize that. It's because, y'all, it's myth making for the taking. Because after a certain time period pass and a generation is removed, that memory can be lost. They don't want you to be aware of the atrocities of the past so that they can continue to implement them today, and which, of course, would allow them to implement them in the future. Because if they're doing it right now, presently, they're going to do it again. And they follow the same pattern.
Myth making for the taking. I love that comment from Mr. Crib.
Bars.
Absolutely bars, because we are often at the mental dialogue, for those who know about what we do on race, sex, and culture, we're often talking about the power of narratives. And so Mr. Krim, in my opinion, effectively connects the dots to what's happening now to why there is an attempt to miseducate on history. Why it's all connected. Because at surface, it doesn't seem to be connected. It doesn't seem to be the things that we're most bodily worried about. What are prices and what's the economics like, and can I get a good edge? These type of things, the things that you're worried about. Yeah, why is there effort to sanitize the history? And he breaks down this myth making for the taking so that this can be repeated. I write about this in my book, Re-Education of the Negro, several times, that the narrative becomes the thing regardless of the actual facts. And I think he makes a great connection for why they want to sanitize history. I'm definitely missing my brother Shelley on this to hear his thoughts on this, because we've had very high disputes on what they did when CRT was the craze, when they pretended like what was happening in the public schools was CRT just to sanitize history. They called it CRT, even though CRT is a graduate level theory that's never been taught at a public school. Never, once. Go ahead, Emil.
So this is what Brother Krim did, and I've had the opportunity to meet him in person. And
dope.
He's a dope brother out of Birmingham, and just absolutely a phenomenal thinker and doer. So I really appreciate this video for multiple reasons, but he's saying something that we got to all key in on. And this is not just for our Black audience members. It is for everybody. When they sanitize history, they're coming for you. They're not coming for us. They're coming for you. Because when they sanitize our history, they're sanitizing your history. Absolutely. They're sanitizing our history. Absolutely. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to remove the motivation for you to stand up for yourself.
Absolutely.
They're removing the motivation for you to be a fully fledged, independent thinking citizen who has the agency to act on their own concerns and volitions. Remember, the Constitution says that I, as a citizen, have the right to redress my grievances with my government, and that I have a First Amendment right to assemble and protest and exercise my ability to tell my government what I want from it without fear of reprisal. But if I'm too dumb, if I'm not educated on how that right was exercised in the past, I may not understand just how vigorously I can petition my government to address my concerns.
And so much so, the biggest trick and slickest thing in the book is if I can tell you it is those others. It is those others that are causing you to go through what you go through. If I can tell you that myth, the myth making for the taking, if I can tell you it is they, if I can tell you it is those others who are not like us, for why you're suffering through what you're suffering through, I can pick your pocket any and every day.
LBJ, what'd he say? Tell the lowest white man that he's better than a black man, and you can pick his pockets clean all day long.
Myth making for the taking. And with that said, we gone. I'll give you a final thought and we out of here, brother. Thank you for a great show today.
You guys out there who listen and watch, you guys have been with us for over a year. Thank you very much. You guys have been so phenomenal. The feedback that we get is great, not just during the show, but after. So please continue to ping us, talk to us, share with your friends that we're doing this because we love breaking down this propaganda. So we appreciate y'all. I'm Emil Bryant. You can find me on my website, myname.com, emilbryant.com. I do political consulting, but I'm also an author and a speaker, and my job is to help people tell the truth. I'm very thankful that I get a chance to do that on the show every week. And Montoya, I appreciate you for being a great moderator.
All right, thanks a lot. We'll see y'all next week. We'll pop up on you Got a couple of good comments to go out on, so y'all check those out.
Make sure y'all brother Shelly and my brother Leo.
Yep. Make sure y'all are subscribing to the page. When you subscribe, do a drop down so you'll get a notification, because it's hard getting our schedules together. That's why we just pop up at any time, y'all. So just so y'all know, that's why we don't have a consistent time. So if you hit that subscribe and that notification button, you'll always get the notification for when we go live. And of course, you can always watch the show later. So the link always works. And share this link with others who would prefer to get rid of the propaganda. We fight through it as best we can. We're not always right, but we are being honest in our attempt to, and not being disingenuous like the media often will be for their own purposes. We do try to avoid that. All right, y'all. We out of here. See y'all next week.